The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
C.D. Lamb, touchdown.
Parsons has sacked it. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Patrik Walker, Josh Rodriguez, and Kyle Youmans.
It's a Talkin Tuesday edition of Talkin Cowboys presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, live from the Star in Frisco, Texas in the SWBC studios. We've got Patrik "No-C" Walker, Josh Rodriguez, Tommy Yarrish with Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Youmans. A little breaking news right off the top. If you want to be a part of Talkin Tuesday, give us a call, 888-855-2297. We'll be taking your calls shortly, but first, it is over for the season for Dak Prescott.
It is. I'm over here working two phones in the Mac, and
I got two.
Nice.
Phones.
So
That's how we make it work.
Hey.
My God, what are you doing?
One for the breaking and one for the news.
Wow. I don't know.
Kyle Kevin
off to a strong
Gates
start
Youmans is in the building. All right. So all right, check out more of the details on DallasCowboys.com. We just got that published. It's up, it's live, it's breaking. Jerry Jones tells 105.3 The Fan the long-expected procedure is actually going to take place on Dak Prescott to repair his partially torn hamstring on Wednesday in New York, which is where he went to get his final medical opinion. He sought out several opinions on what was going on with his hamstring, with the hopes of there being a slim chance of him possibly returning this season. But the hopes were always going to be slim, and now the decision has been made. So Wednesday in New York, Dak Prescott gets his partially torn hamstring surgically repaired. He will then be moved to IR, if not today, and that's going to do it for Dak Prescott for 2024. You will see him in 2025. We'll get a prognosis on his timetable for return as far as how this will affect the beginning of the offseason program over the next several days or so. But that's where we are. It's officially, as Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones reiterated today on The Fan, as it stands, it is the Cooper Rush Show.
Yep.
So that's where we are.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, just kind of the thought process behind Cooper or Trey. I actually enjoyed hearing his side of it, of saying that you can't discount what he did when he went 4-1, filling in for the 5 games for Dak Prescott in 2022. Of
course
you
not.
cannot discount it, which is true. But I think we've all said this on this show before, that it is a different situation than 2022. You don't have an offensive line. You don't have separations from your wide receivers. I think at some point, if the product continues to look like what it did against Philadelphia offensively, I think there will be a switch made at some point this season. You just can't necessarily do that right now. You can't say, hey, one opportunity, it's done, it's good, and then we're going to make a switch. Sorry, Cooper. I don't think that's fair to him and fair to what is happening. But
there's more news here regarding Cooper Rush.
I was about to say,
you ready for this?
That wasn't the only thing, right?
That's not it. You ready for this? Okay. This season is quite literally the definition of Murphy's Law. Okay. So Cooper Rush, apparently Jerry Jones kind of let it slip casually as he was talking to The Fan on that fumbled snap that Cooper Rush suffered after the Cowboys got him the ball back, and we talked about that. That can't happen. Apparently he strained his neck on that play trying to recover that ball. So let me say this again, okay? At the top of this hour, as we talk about having lost franchise quarterback for the remainder of the season, your immediate backup possibly is now less than 100% going into this game against the Houston Texans on Monday Night Football, because on an error of his own devices, of his own making, he strained his neck trying to delete that error. So now that's something to watch this week in practice for Cooper Rush. Will he be on the injury report with a neck strain? Possibly. Yeah. And if so, the Cowboys, obviously, they knew that when they declared that Cooper Rush would be the starter against the Texans. But now you really have to wonder how long or short is that rope as far as Cooper Rush. If he goes out there and he starts struggling, be it because of the neck strain or, the neck strain notwithstanding, what does that look like for Trey Lance?
I think that's the thing, is Jerry mentioned the fact that there is a rope The rope exists for Cooper Rush. He's not pulling the rope yet, but that's my question: is how long is it? How long do you have until you see Trey Lance? And then Mike McCarthy, I think, alluded to it yesterday that they're in the process of signing a third quarterback,
yes.
right? To
So
the roster.
as it stands, the Cowboys are expected to re-sign a reunion. We like our reunions in Dallas, don't we? Will Grier is expected to rejoin the Dallas Cowboys, but not on the active roster. He's expected to be signed to the practice squad, which means they will need to make a corresponding move because the practice squad right now is maxed out at 17 if you include Denzel Jackson with the IPP exemption. So Will Grier, obviously, he spent 2-3 years with the Cowboys, and then he was released, and then he spent a couple stints with some other teams, but now back in the building pending physical. So as long as he clears his physical and all is well there, Cowboys and Will Grier will reunite maybe as early as today.
Yeah. Interesting. Good to know. You weren't here for the Will Grier drama, but there was some drama
there
between
was some
him
drama.
and Trey Lance.
Very
too.
emotional.
Yeah, there was a little emotional drama back and forth. So
Should
that'll
we
be
tell him?
interesting.
Should we tell him?
Should we tell him?
Yeah, we could
go
tell
for
him.
it. Tell him.
All right, so Grier had been fighting to get onto the field.
I actually felt for him.
Yeah, I did. And he's a really great dude, as you'll find out in the locker room. He was fighting for a couple seasons, 2 or 3 seasons, to get on the field, and it just wasn't necessarily working out for him. He had some flashes. He had some struggles. And just when he really thought that he was about to break through, the Cowboys sent a 4th-round pick to the San Francisco 49ers and acquired Trey Lance, and immediately thereafter, Will Grier's first stint with the Cowboys, assuming the second stint enacts this week, was ended, and it was very emotional.
They gave him one final tryout, too. With Trey Lance standing on the sideline, they went up against the Raiders in the final preseason game. He balled out.
He absolutely
went all out.
He went maniac mode, and then it was a very emotional post-game for him, teary-eyed type thing, because he really wanted it.
That was a tough press conference.
It was a tough press conference. So, I mean, who knows? Because, Trey Lance is not in the contract for 2025, and we want to see this evaluation. It's not happening quite yet. So Will Grier right now, 2025. So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance. He's
We'll
here.
see.
He is here. So there's the state of your quarterback room. Josh, I want to get your thought process on Dak season-ending surgery. Not necessarily a surprise, but now it's actually official.
Yeah, it's no surprise. I'm surprised it didn't happen last week, but again, Dak was trying to find different options because he wasn't quitting, right?
He was not giving up.
He was not giving up, and he was
all
trying to do everything he possibly could to see the field again this year. That will not happen, but I am, in a way, relieved that he doesn't have to play for the remainder of the year, with the way the offensive line is playing, with the way that we were calling for him to be mobile and to pick up yards on the ground. Obviously, it just didn't work out that way. It's unfortunate. You hate to see that again to Dak Prescott. I don't want to put it out there that he's in the Romo years. You know what I mean? Like he's towards the end of Romo's career where he's having all these injuries. But I'm worried for the future in that let's hope that the Cowboys are able to make some moves this offseason to get some people and some bodies around him that will help him in the pocket and help him get the ball out quicker. Receivers getting open, receivers running their routes quickly, getting open, creating some space. But to me, part of me is thankful that he doesn't have to play with this current offense of this year.
Yeah.
For the remainder of the year.
Well, obviously, I think like Josh put it well, where it was expected. I think that could have happened last week, but I think that it tells you how much of a competitor Dak Prescott is to be able to put this off and say, I'm going to do everything I can and just pray that somebody tells me I can play. And
in some form or fashion, right?
In some form or fashion, right? And so, obviously that's not the case. Obviously, we're hoping for a speedy recovery and pray that surgery goes well.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I think you're completely right in terms of this offseason needs to be focused on making sure that he's set up for success. Football is a line of scrimmage game. And I think a lot of the reason why the Cowboys have struggled this season has been because they've been weak at points at the line of scrimmage, specifically on the offensive line. I think you can look at this defensive line, and they're starting to piece it together, I think, these last couple of weeks, especially stopping the run. But the offensive line, you've got pieces there. You've got Tyler Smith. You've got. I still think Tyler Guyton can be a good piece for you. I think it's more a matter of him getting the reps, because you got to remember with Guyton, he missed a lot of training camp. He missed OTAs. So those are valuable reps. And Mike McCarthy has talked about how those are valuable reps for a young guy to get. So
And you see a guy like Austin Richards, too.
Exactly. Austin Richards played really well. Cooper Beebe has had a great season as a rookie center in a position he's never played before. I don't think that's talked about enough. Cooper Beebe has never played center. I keep
trying to bring it up.
And he's playing it the way that he is. So, the pieces are there, but I think you're still 1 or 2 away. And when you insert Dak Prescott back into that formula, I think things will bode well.
My only concern here is I don't believe that, and I'm glad you kind of pulled back on that. I don't believe this is the sundown years of Tony Romo as far as injuries are concerned. But we can go ahead and have a wake and a funeral for all of my hopes of Dak Prescott ever running the ball again. He's never running the ball again.
Yeah.
Not ever. He will now be Peyton Manning back there. Mm-hmm. He's never running the ball again. So that's more so than Josh's point. You got to make sure this offseason, whether it be free agency and hopefully the draft, a combination of the two, you got to put the weapons around him that can get the separation, and you got to make sure, because as far as the offensive line, because you don't know that Zach Martin's coming back, and even if he comes back, what's the decision there? Because we talk about Zach's play having declined a bit. Yep. So yeah, you got to make sure the protection is rock solid up front, and you got to get the skill position guys outside of CeeDee Lamb who can get separation and run crisp routes, because Dak's not taking off and running anymore. We're done. I'm burying that. I'm burying that.
Like you said, though, building through the draft, obviously, that's something that we've always done. Right. But you'd hope, even with whether it be a new regime or the same regime that we have currently, as far as coaching staff goes, you'd hope that they put a bigger emphasis on free agency. Yeah. Because there are still really good guys out there in free agency that you could pick up to help enforce this offensive line, tight ends, wide receivers. There's a lot you can still do. Wide receivers. Yes.
The thing with at least this upcoming offseason is they're going to have a little bit more wiggle room than they did this past offseason. That's because they got the Dak deal and the CeeDee Lamb deal done. But not as much as you would think to go and just absolutely spin like crazy, because you've got Micah on the horizon. That's going to be another contract that's going to eat up a ton of your cap. DaRon Bland possibly on the timeline, if they want to extend him and continue having his services moving forward, which I think all of us here would like to do.
Yep.
There's a lot more on the horizon. Tyler Smith, too. I mean, goodness, he's playing at an all-pro level right now. He's the only one on the offensive line that you can say is doing his job and excelling at it at this point. So there might be a tiny sliver of wiggle room, but for the most part, it's still going to be a slow spending offseason, which when you were talking about that and you're building separation from your wide receivers and you're revamping your offensive line, I mean, it's no surprise that on this show I love the NFL draft. That's part of my favorite part of this job that I get to do on a yearly basis. I started getting a little butterfly feeling because it's like, okay, it's going to be that conversation again. Mm-hmm. In the first round, is it going to be a wide receiver or an offensive lineman? Again. That's what it'll be in April.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the conversation, when we start the draft show, whether that's 4 weeks from now or 10 weeks from now, it's starting to look a little bit more like 4 weeks from now as we go along. But whenever we start the draft show, that will be the first segment of, as we stand today, where are you going in the first round? And right now I'm kind of in between wide receiver and offensive line, because those are the things you're going to have to build around your $60 million on average per year quarterback.
And there's going to be
who isn't going to be running a whole lot.
There's going to be a curveball. Not to get into the draft show, but you're going to get the curveball of like an Ashton Jeanty, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So I mean, but that's going to make your conversation fun.
I think the Ashton Jeanty conversation would have been a little bit higher up in the calling card if you were picking in the early 20s or late teens,
but not as you might sniff top 5.
You might be top 10. Yeah, moving up.
Knocking on the door of top 10 right now.
Exactly. You're at 11 right now, right? So, yeah, I don't know if I'm okay with Jeanty that high. I love Ashton Jeanty.
Put a pin in that.
Don't get me wrong.
Because we're going to end up having a draft conversation right now. Just put a pin in
We
that.
can have a draft conversation.
No, too soon.
We need to talk to Talkin Cowboys Nation.
Too soon.
But, yeah.
Tommy was excited yesterday about, because we get to start draft work.
We watched a little film yesterday.
Did you?
We watched a little film.
Let's go. All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Cowboys Nation. 888-855-2297. It is a Talkin Tuesday. Hit the phone lines now. Chris Beam is in the back waiting to answer your call. Right after this with more Talkin Cowboys.
If you're looking for fresh American roasted coffee that gives back, you need to head to your local grocery store and pick up a bag of Black Rifle coffee. That's right, America's Coffee is now available in the coffee aisle of a grocery store near you. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded with a mission to give back to those brave men and women who have served our nation. Every bag, box, or can you purchase helps support that mission. Head to your local grocery store and roast yourself some Black Rifle coffee today.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, this portion of the show is brought to you by Quaker Oats, the official oatmeal sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Quaker Oats, trusted since 1877. It's starting to heat up already. We're having draft conversations.
We were having draft conversations.
We ran out of time.
That was scintillating.
Yeah, it's coming, Cowboys Nation. I promise it'll hit the airwaves soon enough. All right. Our first caller today on a Talkin Tuesday, 888-855-2297. Our guy, Champ in Nebraska. Champ, you're on Talking Cowboys. What's going on?
Hey, gentlemen. How we doing this morning?
Doing great. What's on your mind?
Good. Oh, my gosh. Excuse me. So much to talk about with this team. Like, what a disappointing season. You know, we had 3 great runs the last 3 years, and a lot of hope going into this season, some question marks, and it just all fell apart. I mean, the wheels have just fallen off the car. I have a huge question about the head coaching. I don't know why it feels like, well, I do know why. Everybody's on Mike McCarthy's gone. He's on the 1-year contract. He's gone. But yet Jerry refuses to fire him right now if that's what he's going to do. What are the chances that Jerry excuses all the injuries and brings him back on a 2-year contract or something? Is that possible? Like, do you think that's something he would do, being that Jerry does what Jerry wants to do? And then on that hand, my other question is, I love Jerry. Jerry's a great owner. He's been a great owner and ambassador for the NFL for many, many years. That being said, Jerry is getting old. A lot of the stuff Jerry says is no longer Jerryisms.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that I think we should be a little concerned about, I still think he's an intelligent man, but he's not as sharp as he was when he was a lot younger. One of the things being this morning, slipping with the Cooper injury. I don't think that was supposed to come out. The Dak, when he admitted that Dak's having surgery tomorrow, it kind of sounded like he came out, and maybe it shouldn't have, but then he was like, well, I already said it, so let's just go with it. So just wondering what you guys think. I mean, I know you work for him. I know you're not going to dog the man. I don't expect that. But, you know, what do you think about that part of him? That being said, I love the show. I listen to you guys every day. Patrick, Trayvon, still the Pappy.
Still the Pappy.
Got him one more time.
Still the Pappy.
So you guys have a great day. I'll be listening. Have a great week. Love you guys.
Thanks, brother.
Appreciate it, champ.
Much love.
Great job. 2 great questions. I'm going to address the second one first, and I'll leave it up to you guys here in a moment. And this is a fan asking the questions. I want to let it be known because, like you said, we work for the team, and there's a little bit there. But I'm going to tell the truth in this factor. I'm not going to sugarcoat this one bit.
Talking facts.
Jerry Jones is still extremely calculated.
Yes.
Everything that he let slip in terms of 105.3 The Fan this morning was a calculated move. He's doing that because he's Jerry Jones and because he does that. Everything he says in the media is still exceptionally calculated. He's not letting anything, quote unquote, slip that he doesn't want to let slip. That news was going to come out at some point anyways, and so Jerry Jones saying it from the lips of Jerry Jones just allows for more eyeballs, more ears, more attention to the flagship station, all sorts of things like that along the way. That's a smart move from Jerry Jones, is all that is. He knows how to stir the pot. He knows how to make a national storyline. We're watching our guy Isaiah Stanback on Good Morning Football on the screen next to us right now, and the bottom line is breaking news, Jerry Jones says blank. That's why he says it on the radio. There's nothing slipping there.
3D chess that man plays.
And the Cooper Rush thing, same thing. It's the same exact deal. That's calculated. And there might be things.
So that in the event Cooper Rush struggles,
absolutely,
there's the soft pointing of, hey, I kind of told you that he was dealing with something, right?
Absolutely. And there are things that I'm sure the coaching staff and the team across the hallway would love to keep silent. But at the end of the day, this is the Jones family's organization. That's what it is, and they're going to say what they want to say, period. And so if they want it to be out there in the open and they want to use that as a nugget in their weekly phone call, they're going to do it. That's just plain and simple part of it.
Let me address Champ's first question really quickly.
Coach McCarthy.
Coach McCarthy, if you bring him back, my question is, who is your defensive coordinator? What?
Al Harris.
Yeah?
Yeah. And I say that quickly and I say that unequivocally because he was atop my list for defensive coordinators before they brought in Mike Zimmer and gave him the position. Al Harris has outright earned a shot at coordinating his own defense.
What does his defense look like? Does it go back to what we were doing with Dan Quinn?
It's takeaways and it's rushing the passer. It is Dan Quinn-esque with some.
Remember, he was hired by the McCarthy initially and was under Mike Nolan initially. Right. He wasn't hired by Dan Quinn, so do you think he would take that Dan Quinn mindset?
I think it's more Dan Quinn. I've had several conversations with Al Harris, and during the time with Dan Quinn, he couldn't offer up enough praise for what Dan Quinn was teaching him as far as the knowledge that was being imparted, growing him as a coach, and the scheme that Dan Quinn operated under that allowed for an exceptional pass rush as well as an exceptional defensive takeaway scheme, right? Yeah. And we're seeing right now under Mike Zimmer, even though Al Harris got the promotion assistant head coach and he's still defensive backs coach, but with this new scheme, I see very little Al Harris fingerprints. Very few of Al Harris's fingerprints on this. And I think that's one of the things that the Cowboys need to get back to. So, yeah, knowing how the front office works, they love their proven head coaches and coordinators. God, they really love them. They seem kind of allergic to newer, younger faces that weren't groomed by the organization like a Kellen Moore or a Jason Garrett, which is why I find it difficult. Although looking forward, Ben Johnson would be a great candidate if he becomes available. We can't talk about him as if he's available because that's tampering. Yep. But you have those younger names. But that isn't the same as like a Kellen Moore when he was within the building, Jason Garrett. Al Harris is a young-minded guy who's here and has been here several years. So I feel like that part of how the Cowboys pattern works, coaching-wise, hiring-wise, and the fact that Al Harris has shown that he can develop guys and get them taking away the ball, Al Harris for me.
Another question, though. If McCarthy is gone next season, does Al Harris still have that chance to become defensive coordinator?
I don't see why he would not. Keep in mind,
it depends on who they would hire as a head
coach. Because that head coach would have say.
They would have their own guys.
But most of the time they would.
Yeah.
I guess my point there to answer that question would be if Al Harris, now granted the Cowboys blocked Dan Quinn from getting Al Harris from the Cowboys, but that was because
he already had his two.
If Dan Quinn, he had Joe Witt. So if Dan Quinn had offered Al Harris a promotion, then nothing the Cowboys could have done about it, right? So I say that to say, if Mike McCarthy is out of the building, there's a love that Al Harris has for McCarthy, having played for him as well in Green Bay, that obviously, realistically speaking, you have to entertain the fact that maybe Al Harris is going to go with Mike McCarthy. But I've spoken with Al Harris, and he's ready to take a leap. Okay, he's ready to get his own something. If that's his own defense, if that's his own team, he's ready to get something of his own and break out. And I could see it being a situation where he thanks McCarthy for bringing him into the organization and everything he's done for him, both as a player and developing as a coach, and then saying, hey, if Jerry Jones and this new incoming head coach is going to give me a chance to prove myself as a DC, I'm not going to say no to that. So that I could continue my tutelage under McCarthy.
Who would you pick? You asked the question, but I'm kind of curious on who would be your defense coordinator. Outside hire or inside hire? Whichever
I would go with Al Harris.
Yeah.
I want to see what that looks like, because I think you would bring back the element of, like Patrick just said, taking the ball away, and you would bring back
Dan Quinn's not available, but he is, like Al Harris is.
Right. But the personnel that he was using, and I think Al Harris has a better understanding of that.
Sure.
Comparatively, obviously, they worked together for such a long time. I think he has a better understanding. And, of course, he knows the players that he has.
Yeah. The only other thing that I could add an element to in that process is if they were to hire Al Harris as a defensive coordinator, a lot of times that would admit fault on who they hired initially instead of Al Harris in this last coaching cycle of hiring Mike Zimmer as the defensive coordinator instead of hiring who they interviewed for the job. Al Harris is the defensive coordinator. They blocked him, they kept him here, but they didn't ultimately end up hiring him moving forward. And this would admit, hey, we were wrong the first time around. Are you wrong now over the options? Who knows? Because we haven't seen Al Harris as a defensive coordinator.
But I think the evidence is that you bring Mike Zimmer in for 1 year.
Sure.
They signed him for a 1 year deal.
Yes.
I think that anticipation
a nice $5 million favor.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, a big favor on his part. But I'm saying, you probably did that for Al Harris as well.
Yeah.
Give him a chance to learn besides somebody that isn't Dan Quinn and really develop who he is, his coaching
third
style.
Defensive coordinator.
And give him that promotion as well. Right. You know what I mean? So, I think there is a part of the grooming process, right?
Yeah.
To get him where he wants to go.
What do you think, Tommy?
I'm completely on board
tampering.
with the. I'm on board with the Al Harris for defensive coordinator train. Yeah, I think that you made a good point where it's his third defensive coordinator, so that's given him some time to marinate in a lot of different systems and a lot of different philosophies and a lot of different coaching styles. And I think that when you've got players coming in from different philosophies, different coaching styles, more often than not, that's going to gel really well for you. I think you take a look at all your options, you see what's on the table, like you do in any coaching search at any level, whether it be coordinator, head coach. But if you were to tell me tomorrow, hey, Al Harris is going to be the Cowboys defensive coordinator in 2025, I'd be completely on board with that. And I'll say this too, going back to Champ's thing about Mike McCarthy and the injuries and whether or not that would be, something that gives him some extra time or whatever it may be. Look, Mike McCarthy is a great head coach. I think he's a great football coach.
Absolutely.
I think that his track record shows that. He went 12-5 for 3 years here in a row. You don't do that by accident. Injuries are a part of the game. At any level of football, you are never going to be 100% healthy across the board throughout the entire season.
He won a Super Bowl riddled with injuries.
He won a Super Bowl riddled with injuries and a very good quarterback. But nonetheless, I think that what it comes down to in the evaluation process is how do you build off of those injuries? Because they're going to happen. Obviously, for the Cowboys, it has been at an unprecedented scale and unfortunate timing left and right. But how do you keep things afloat? And so I think that's going to be the biggest thing that the organization looks to when it comes to that decision that's coming up here at the end of the season is, did he do a good enough job keeping it afloat? Do we think that he can keep this afloat going forward? And that's the question that's ultimately going to have to be answered.
And right now, as we sit, as Week 10 is now in the rearview mirror, I don't know if you're in that boat. I don't know if the Cowboys' boat is afloat across the way or not. We're not in that locker room, but we can only tell from the outside looking in, it hasn't been good the last couple of weeks. And that's where these conversations are starting.
And it also depends on their definition of what is afloat.
What is afloat?
Is it winning? Is it locker room cohesion? Is it personnel? Is it scheme?
Could be anything.
What is staying afloat? So all of that is something to think about as we go into these last couple of games.
We do need to take our second break and get to some more phone calls. Great call, Champ, just to provoke some conversation.
Look what you did, Champ.
The thought process here for me when it comes to Mike McCarthy before we go to this break is the fact that, Mike, if you were to make a switch now, how does it help you further your franchise? I don't have a legitimate reason to do it right now, other than the fact if you have lost the locker room, and I don't think that's the case.
He has not lost the locker room.
I don't think he's lost the locker room.
You mean today? Like
today, because that was the first part of Champ's question was why hasn't he made a move yet? If this is going to happen anyways.
Yeah.
The reason you haven't made a move yet is because he hasn't lost the locker room, at least from our outside vantage point looking in. And if you were to do it, it's the same question Josh has asked. Who's your interim head coach?
Yep.
Who's your defensive coordinator? Who's your offensive coordinator? I mean, the whole staff would have to be redone in the middle of a season. I know you're not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, but you're pretty much eliminated from the playoffs at this point in time. It still doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And so that's why I don't think a move has been made yet. And there's going to be a long way, and they're going to give an opportunity. Maybe that's the respect that the front office has for what McCarthy has done the last 3 years. They're going to give him a chance to right the ship, to keep this thing afloat, and then they'll reevaluate as the years go on, or the year goes on and it comes to a close at the end of the year, and as his contract comes to a close. So there will be a reevaluation process. If you're expecting a midseason move, I would just stop expecting it. It's not going to happen unless things absolutely hit the absolute rock bottom and maybe below. Because they're going to give him a chance to try and get back to the top. All right, when we come back here on Talkin Cowboys, a couple more calls. We've got Cynthia and Nebby on the line. We'll talk to you right after this.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. With football season kicking off, I'm already gearing up to bring the smoker back to AT&T Stadium for some epic tailgates. But with that Texas heat, it's crucial to keep my beer hand cramping cold. That's where Yeti's insulated Colster can cooler comes in clutch. This year, you can even get them with the iconic star engraved on the side. Licensed Yeti Cowboys gear is now available at Stadium Pro Shops, concessions, and on Yeti.com. Check it out today. Yeti, official cooler and drinkware of the Dallas Cowboys.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica, how much have I spent on concessions?
For questions about their money, Dallas Cowboys fans can turn to Erica, the virtual financial assistant in the Bank of America mobile banking app. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/Erica by your side. Bank of America, official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Erica responses may vary. Digital tools featured require downloading the mobile banking app and may only be available on select mobile devices. Erica is a mobile feature only available in the English language. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Hey there, Cowboys Nation. Welcome back into Talkin Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company. This segment is brought to you by Invisalign, the official smile of the Dallas Cowboys. We're all smiles today with Patrik Walker, Josh Rodriguez, Tommy Yarrish, Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Youmans, and we're all smiles because we're talking to the Cowboys fans. Cowboys Nation. Let's go to Nebby in Silver Springs, Maryland. What's going on, Nebby?
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for taking my call. First of all, I want to get this out of the way. Last week, you guys were talking about who you guys hate more, the Philadelphia Eagles or the Washington Commanders. Well, for me, growing up, me personally, I have always Commanders were, are the more hated rivals. So me personally, even though I obviously live in the D.C. area, me personally, I hate the Commanders more than I hate the Eagles. Although that said, I do give the Commanders credit for being a great football team this year. Now, having said all that, I believe we are in must-win mode for the next several weeks, and if we don't win our next game this coming Monday night at home against the Houston Texans, then I believe that we should be in full evaluation mode and put Trey Lance in, evaluate him. I give Deuce Vaughn a chance to play and see what happens the rest of the season. All that said, before I go, I just want to say that the season isn't over yet, but we do have to win our next several games in order to make the playoffs. And I hope you don't mind me being optimistic and not giving up on the season just yet. Take care. Thank you so much for being patient with me, and have a great week. Bye.
Thanks, Nebby.
I'm going to start calling Nebby's calls Nebby Knows Ball.
Nebby Knows Ball.
That's
Nebby Knows
I think I'm
Ball.
going to start calling that because
Get his own segment.
I agree. A complete evaluation mode. You've got 8 games left. A lot of times, in order to make the postseason in this 17-game schedule, you need to win 10 games at least. Maybe 11, depending on what division you're in. And, of course, if you've looked lately, the Cowboys are in a pretty good division. You need to win either all 8 of your next games or at the minimum 7 of your next 8 games in order to make the playoffs. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about yesterday. Like, if anybody is looking at this team right now and saying they're going to win 7 of 8, I would call you crazy. I would absolutely call you crazy. I love the optimism, but I also think Nebby brings optimism in a realistic standpoint of, let's say, hey, it doesn't go our way and you do lose on Monday night. Like he said there, it's evaluation time, which could be beneficial to this football team as well.
I would argue that it's been evaluation time for this team since like week 4, and they just haven't realized it yet because they've been playing so much young talent. And I don't say that as a bad thing. I mean, it's evaluation from a standpoint of you get to see what you have while also getting these guys valuable
Should
reps.
always be evaluated.
Exactly, right? But it's been more so just because of the injuries that have come up, and you've got you've got 2 rookies on the offensive line. You've got DeMarvion Overshown starting at linebacker for you, what essentially is his rookie year. Kalen Carson has had to step up at corner. So sometimes that evaluation period comes with a negative connotation because some would take it as, okay, the season's over. Like, there's nothing to play for anymore. Yeah. Well, there's always something to play for. There's always something to play for because you get those guys reps and you get to see what they've got. So I would agree with that notion, with that approach.
Yeah. Well, we everyone knows I kicked into evaluation mode
in week 4.
Well, no, not that far back. But I did say I wanted to see Trey Lance packages, and going into that game against the Eagles, I wanted to see some Deuce Vaughn and some of these other younger guys that you haven't seen, so that you could start the process. And then I said, if you lose against the Eagles, to me, it is a lost season. But again, to Tommy's point, that doesn't mean that what happens from henceforth doesn't matter. It does matter because you now need to see if Deuce Vaughn needs to be on this roster next year. Yeah. You need to see more from Hunter Lipke so that you can build him up and get him ready for next year. And now Will Grier expected to come back. Let's see if Will Grier is going to be a viable option. So for me, you know what you have in Cooper Rush. Now I'm in start Trey Lance mode right now. Yeah. Okay. And then let's sprinkle.
That's documented.
Right. And then let's sprinkle some Will Grier in there. Let's have some fun with it while we're doing the evaluation. So that's the only difference between Nebby and I, in that I agree with what he's saying. It's just that my full evaluation mode has already started. Like, it started more or less after you lost to the Eagles.
Yeah.
Right. So he's willing to wait a week. But to your point, Kyle, not only would you have to damn near win out, in conjunction with that, you would need both the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles to fall flat on their faces. The Eagles have shown that they can, but this Commanders team is just so red hot. And then you look at who they're playing. Yeah, they got the Eagles twice, so two headbutts there. But, you know, they're playing the Cowboys, they're playing the Titans, they're playing the Saints, who are surging a little bit, but maybe they'll mail it in by then.
I want to get to Cynthia because Cynthia is a real one.
Come on,
Cynthia is one of our favorite callers on Talkin Cowboys because she's offered us true Tex-Mex whenever we get the chance to go down to Laredo, Texas. Cynthia, you're back on Talkin Cowboys. What's going on?
Good morning, guys. It's about time Chris got me on this year.
Yeah, finally.
A female fan, okay?
We love it. We love it. Cynthia, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm sad.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not mad at the Cowboys. I'm not mad at anybody. You know who I am so sad for?
What's that?
Ezekiel Elliott. It hurts me that he's done so much for so many years, and now the situation he's in. I just wanted to say that I appreciate all those good times we had with him. Now, I wanted y'all guys' opinion about, is this his last year? Can he retire as a Cowboy? I would love to see that.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. Kyle, I just want to thank you because I met you last year when we played the Giants, and I met Nate and Michelle, his wife, and that will always be in my heart forever and ever. And forever and ever, a Cowboy fan.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'll let you guys go, and I'll listen to y'all.
Appreciate you, Miss Cynthia.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call, as always. Yeah, she was great. We were out at pregame live like we were last week, and she came by and said hi.
Sounds like good people.
I told you. We met Tim, by the way, this past week. Huge Talkin Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
Tim came by the set, was able to say hi, took a picture with Isaiah and I, and we kind of like gave him some freebies, gave him like a Whataburger hat and the Jack Black set, some little take me homes. But he was awesome. Loved talking to Tim. Loved talking to Cynthia last year. Ezekiel Elliott. The conversation was made this morning with Jerry Jones, and he said, we are not living in the past with Ezekiel Elliott. He said, let it be clear. We are not living in the past. He's like, we are currently in the future. I think. Present, future, whatever it is that be. What does that mean for his future here? Because we talked about it yesterday. Josh, you talked about Rico Dowdle fumbles at the goal line. He's made inactive next week. Hunter Lipke fumbles
Not
at the goal line.
but definitely less.
He was
Oh,
sick.
he was actually inactive, remember?
He was
the
sick.
year,
Oh,
the
that
week
was the
after.
sick. Okay,
Yeah, he was
right.
sick
He was
whenever
under
he
the
went.
weather.
Yeah,
That's right.
The weather was over him.
Yeah, there was weather there. There was a storm a coming. But then you had Hunter Lipke last year, who didn't get a touch the rest of the year.
After Miami.
Ezekiel Elliott, who has had his struggles this year, gets the opening carry of the next drive. There's a conspiracy theory out there. I'm not saying it's what I believe, but they're saying that, hey, we're going to give you one last carry, so your last carry is not a fumble with this team and in this uniform. I don't know if I believe that's the case.
Yeah,
That's not his last carry.
I agree. But is this his last year?
That was not his last carry. I do not believe Ezekiel Elliott will retire from the NFL in 2025. So to Cynthia's question, would he retire as a Cowboy after this season? I don't get the indication that he's looking to retire. He still thinks he can play ball, and there's going to be a team that gives him a shot to do so. I don't know that will be here in Dallas, though.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
I don't know that will be here in Dallas. I think, again, I said it 2 weeks ago, Rico Dowdle has earned the right to remain in Dallas in 2025, but you still don't know what you have in Deuce. You kind of know what you have in Hunter, but we want to see more evaluation on those latter two guys I just talked about. You got to rebuild your running backs room, and I'm with rebuilding it with Rico Dowdle in the mix. But as far as Ezekiel Elliott, it's one of those things where how's the saying go? You can't go home again. I think that's where they are with Ezekiel Elliott.
My opinion, I don't think this is Zeke's last year playing football. I think this probably is his last year in Dallas, and hopefully eventually he retires with the Cowboys. I would love to see that happen.
One-day contract.
But if you just look at the statistics, I mean, this year compared to last year, where I think the Patriots surprisingly had they obviously used him in better ways for his playing style currently, and we are just not that team right now. I mean, if you even look at his rushing yards, it's over 600 last season. He's only at 170 at the moment. Yeah. And we're a good portion through the season. I don't think he's going to get anywhere near 600, 700 yards rushing. And he had almost 1,000 all-purpose yards last year as well. He's not reaching that.
Sniff that
because we don't throw the ball to him either. I just don't think that our play style is playing to his strengths in any form or fashion. Yeah. I think it's a shame because I think that is a tool that you could use. He's a great athlete. It's disappointing that the play calls are not going his way, and the offense just doesn't seem to fit what he does. What Ezekiel Elliott does now, what we've talked about even in the offseason. It's like you can't expect 2016 Zeke to come in and play like that anymore. You have to expect 2023 Zeke, and
2024 Zeke,
yeah. and use him to his strengths. Yeah. So it doesn't seem to be that way, but I don't think he this is his last football.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's still gas left in the tank. I just don't think the car's being driven right now. And
it's a bar.
I think.
That is.
I think I agree most with Josh's point about this is unfortunately not 2014, 2015 Ezekiel Elliott. This is 2024 Ezekiel Elliott. The unfortunate part about time is that sometimes he catches up to you, and Father Time is undefeated. I think you've told me that. How about 500,000 times in the month that I've been here? But it's very true. And you're seeing it across the board. Even Zach Martin, you feel like time is kind of catching up to him too. Yeah. But no, I don't think this is Ezekiel Elliott's last year in the NFL. And I certainly hope not, because I still think that there's some juice left there.
Yeah, the bottom line is it's every once in a while you get back with the next, you give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, don't wait until it gets toxic. Just let it go. I think this is one of those situations. They got back with their ex, and based upon the history, they were like, there were some good things there. We had a lot of romances.
we had a lot
of good things happen. But then this time around, after you've gotten back with the ex, you're like, yeah, we're two different people now entirely. So just
talking relationships,
dude. That is the weirdest metaphor that's ever worked that well. Like that is the perfect metaphor, but it's also super uncomfortable at the same time.
Hey, it's because we've all been there. So.
Were you gonna add something there?
No, I just think that not to tamper or anything, but wouldn't it be nice to see Zeke with a quarterback that has some escapability, some dual threat to him, so that you could actually see him out in space receiving?
Why do you hate that? No, I'm joking.
Wow. Why do you hate Cooper Rush?
Yeah. Let me tell you about Trey Lance.
Bingo.
And he might be better with Trey Lance.
It might be, yeah. Maybe. It might be. We'll have to find out.
Maybe. We'll be back tomorrow. Cowboys defensive preview going up against C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans offense. It does not get any easier for Dallas. And we're going to try and see what happens. Defense is giving you some things to build on. And we're going to see if the Cowboys can take it another step forward, maybe play a complete 4 quarters of defense, even whether or not the offense gives you any help as well. It's going to be a tough task this week against the Texans. For Tommy Yarrish, for Josh Rodriguez, Patrik Walker, Chris Beam in the back, I'm Kyle Youmans saying so long from Talkin Cowboys. We'll see you tomorrow.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!